Thank you, thank you. So, good afternoon, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, today's seminar is interesting because it's based on a recent doctorate degree, which the lady is there, Dr. Julia Ling. And actually I supervised many PhDs over, I'm not young, I'm 68 years old. So I have at least 50 doctorate students that pass first time, very important. They pass second time, it's already bad record. So this is the latest one because of the COVID pandemic. So I want to ask any one of you, because I saw these prices also, just give me one gap that you can think of. One gap that you can think of. Who wants to try? And we are facing this every day. What is this one gap? Anyone? I give you one example. Cultural gap. Cultural gap. Let's say Indonesia is a very big place. I meet people from Medan, and I also teach at Petra Christian University for 20 years. But if you ask me, do I know the Surabayans, I say I don't really know, because among themselves there's many students from different parts of Indonesia. So cultural gap is something that can be causing stress. Why people behave in this manner? So, but if you are a cosmopolitan country like Singapore, no choice, because our tourists come from many sectors. So the same happened in Bali. So cultural gap, we have to narrow down the gap. So how about here? That's one example. Technology gap, yes. Like my age, if you ask me for compare how fast I can send SMS compared to my children, is impossible, or even the younger generation. So every time if I want to type something or to do something, I dictate, it will be done very fast. Sending SMS, right? Or your WhatsApp. So therefore gap is real, but whether this gap causes pain or not, right? So gap can cause stress. Gap can also cause happiness. Yeah, that is the two sides of the coin. Oh, okay. So we have, in particular, in the industry, because today we focus about what's happening in the real world, we have communications gap. We all know that what I said and what, after that I asked you, what did I say? Totally different. I said, oh my God, how can that be? Is it my English is no good? Is it, hey, but you speak Singlish, don't speak English, no? No problem. I'm not joking. When I went to teach first time in UE, nobody understand me. S2, no? These are not the, they are very senior students, because they say, you don't speak American English. Yeah, they don't speak American English, because Singapore we speak British English, plus the Singapore slang, so it becomes very difficult to understand. Plus, I spend my time in Scotland, so even more difficult to understand. So communications gap. What else? I always look at how come some of our ministers even earn more than the President of America. Income gap. Income gap. How come they earn so much money? But to the rich Indonesians, which I was working with Cinema's group, that is nothing. Some of the big conglomerates, 1 month, the salary is $4 million, USD, not rupiah. So it's nothing, right? Yeah, or even talk about the richest man on earth, which is now Elon Musk. To him, this is nothing, peanuts. So income gap also is another gap. So, but some of this we have to understand. But what is facing us in the real world that we are doing every day is either we are in a company, which is an enterprise, or in an organization. Because we have two types. One is the manufacturing industry, like example, Pratita is in the service industry. Huh? So let us start with the next slide. Huh? So therefore, we want to build a bridge to move from point A to point B. I think all of us know the bridge in San Francisco, right? Beautiful. And then they don't need structure, so it's hanging. They also duplicate that in Thailand. So Thailand, you see the same thing, the bridge, which is hanging. But to cross the bridge, if you ask the engineer, you have to engage design thinking, because how many lanes you have on the bridge that move in the forward direction, how many lanes move in the backward direction, so it's called equilibrium. If you have stationary, the bridge you can see slowly, slowly, slowly. If too long, they just collapse. So that is the reason why we must understand the gaps in an organization. And unfortunately, there are 4 gaps. If you are not careful, and this is what the COVID pandemic has taught us, for companies who don't believe there are 4 gaps, they are no longer here today. 40% of such organizations bankrupt. One of the organizations that bankrupt, including the biggest one in the world for tourism industry, is STA, Student Travel Association, the 2nd largest in the world. When I was a student, I also used this STA to travel because they actually charge you the cheapest of your airfare. So you go to STA when it's collapsed, because they didn't want to appreciate the 4 gaps. So we hope with this seminar, if you are working or studying, you have rich parents or your parents wants to expand the business, so you may immediately apply and make sure that you seal the gap. You seal the gap so that it starts at the bridge, the weight is not too heavy, and which one you think will go down first? Of course, the gap that's the biggest, it will crack and then is going to be crisis, right? Okay, so let's look at this bridge. Next slide, please. So the first one is strategy gap. So how many of us, when we fail the exam, we blame it on the lecturer? Of course, the lecturer don't like me. When I'm no good in my bonus this year, I blame the boss because my boss don't like me. But if my boss asks me, Casey, do you have a strategy? Then I think very hard. Then I ask, I may remember communication gap. Maybe my meaning of strategy is different from yours. So can you tell me, what do you mean? So my boss may explain to me in this way. Casey, you're good in your operation strategy because I want to make the students pass with good results. I want the students not only pass with good results, but they're able to get good jobs. So then the university ranking becomes higher. This is the real thing. One KPI is the students can get good jobs. Second KPI is the salary of the student. Normal. But this is operations. Other universities are also working the same. But did I bring in investment? Did I bring in endowments for the university because for the work we have done? That means my students are not actually doing jobs, which is called case studies. My students are actually act as junior consultants for organizations is willing to pay money. Like myself, when I was a student, the company paid me money to go to the factory, and I passed my exam based on my interview. And not only that, they give you a scholarship. So if you think along those lines, yes, then now I have a business plan, but this is still due to a higher level, which is coming from the university, which is the strategic plan. So that's the reason why there are 3 gaps from corporate strategy. There's a gap. That means Pratita has a corporate strategy. Then it goes into the division strategy, is the departmental strategy. which is, if there's no gap, it's fine, but if there's another gap, and then now you go into operation strategy. That means now, who is closest to the customer? Not the lecturer. The student is closest to the customer. If I am a student, I know the future employer early, and I think this is a company I really want to work with, and I perform in this company, the chances is that they will pick up the scholarship, just like myself. I will sponsor Casey. I will sponsor the department to do bigger projects, because the lecturers can do even more. So this is my opening about gaps theory. It's not new, it's there, but nobody visited it until the COVID. Then people realize that if you don't fill up the gap, then your company is in disaster. Oh? Now let's continue. So there is a very famous professor from Harvard Business School, passed away already during the COVID. So you see, COVID killed a lot of good professors, right? So I'm not the good one, that's why I'm alive. Don't you think so? So he says that his name is Creighton Christensen, the top professor, talk about innovation, and he says that there are 3 types of innovation. The first type is called efficiency innovation. Example, now some of you may have heard of that students are given more chance to have less exam, but more projects by assignment. It's already happening. But some universities even have MBA and MSc. That means when you go on the S2, you can get MBA, because MBA is generic. Then you can specialize MSc into supply chain management, into project management, into digital transformation, etc. Because you know exactly what you want to do after you finish the S2. No? So the first one is efficiency gap. I just make it better, faster, better. But the sustaining gap is that how can your organization retain the good customers? Bad customers, you want them to go because they always give you trouble, right? You maintain the good customers. So it's the same thing with the university. A university gets its name because they have good lecturers, good students. So in this case, you can see, oh, this lecturer is engaged as a consultant in this organization. So you can see, example, many of us know Harvard, Stanford, MIT, because their professors' salary is not high. But they do a lot of consulting work, so their name is always in the business news. So that is sustaining the competitiveness of the company. So those are innovation. And innovation means must have projects. The last one is transformation. Now what is facing all of us, including myself? Last 2 years I did many studies, because Singapore is very fast moving. We are going through the digital business transformation, not as an organization, as a country. Everybody think very different now. Everybody wants to make sure that they provide the best customer care in terms of medical services. Example, I see a doctor today. This is recorded into an integrated health medical system. Another hospital in Singapore, not overseas yet, will know what went right, what went wrong with me. Let's say I see a family doctor up to 5 p.m., but I don't feel good. Midnight, I go to the hospital. They know exactly how I was treated. And now they know exactly how to make sure that they can give me the right medicine or the right treatment. Very efficient. Banking industry, I think almost all of us, but recently, if you look at the book called The World's Best Bank, this is DBS Bank. They are able, during this COVID pandemic, recruit 2 billion subscribers for the digital banking, including Indonesia through Gojek and also in India. because these two are very big market. China, sorry, China has their own banks, and they say, no, thank you. DBS Bank, we will collaborate with you, but not to the extreme. But in Indonesia, they do very well, they're doing very well, as well as in India. So those are the transformation, and this is what an organization has to make sure they follow. So what came up from the research is that if you look at Steve Jobs has a very simple equation. When he does things, it's all very simple, because first thing, he's not a university graduate. Second is, like he said, what is the measurement of success? The measurement of success is dollar value. Very simple. Oh, that's the common denominator. So he says that, well, if I do everything Apple, we do nothing. So when he went back to Apple, he asked only one question. How many computers are we producing now? The answer, 14, when he returned back to Apple. So he said, why so many computers? So can we do a Pareto analysis? So all management students know what is called Pareto analysis, right? Or we call this the 80-20 rule. So 20% of the 14 different computers contribute to 80% of the revenue. That means there are only 4 computers that bring in the largest revenue. So now we ask the next question. Can we do a marketing research to see if we drop the balance of the 10, do we still maintain the market share? The answer is yes. The next question he asked, when people buy Apple, is it because this is made in America, or Apple can be made in another country? The answer is also clear. People buy Apple because of the brand. People don't look at whether Apple is made in Indonesia, China, or India. So he said, now it's clear, we move 80% of the production to China. The other 20% cannot move out because it's for the military in USA. That gives them big money. So therefore, now the cost is reduced to 1/3. And where is the biggest market? We all also know the answer. It's in China and in USA. So that is how he focuses on one by one, from the iMac to the iPod to the iPad to the iPhone, and Apple become the richest company in the world. But now, of course, it's Tesla, but before that was still Apple. The first company in manufacturing that hit the $1 trillion industry, the other 9 are banks. Okay. So this is what he created, the Office of Strategy Innovation Management, to seal the gap. That means if there's any gap that they cannot achieve the revenue, talk to this part of the organization. If there's any marketing issue with the new product, talk to this part of the organization. Very focused just on whatever they are introducing now. So this is what we can learn from very successful companies, especially before COVID, during COVID, and now post-COVID. They are still number 1. Oh, next. Execution gap. So how many of us, especially, I'm still a student, I'm still studying. Because now the accounting system is different. I'm not joking. I'm a consultant. So one day someone showed me the balance sheet. Huh? I have not been reading balance sheet for 5 years, you know. They said, oh, the regulation changed, okay, see. Then how can you become our consultant? I said, oh, okay, I asked my assistant to interpret. Depreciation factor. So rental now is costed differently. So we cut those stories short. So therefore, I have to enroll myself on the accounting certification to learn about the new accounting system. So that is the execution gap. That means I want to do something, but something is blocking me. Right? So what are those something that get into the way? So let's look at the execution gap. Next. Now, just like myself, how do we take our meals in the company? Do I eat light during breakfast? lunchtime I eat more, then evening I eat less. If you are young, no problem, all 3 meals the same. But when you go older, you take heavy meal during breakfast, right? Because the blood go to stomach. So lunchtime, you don't want your boss to look at you. Casey, wake up, it's 2 o'clock only, not 5 p.m. and not time to go home. So lunchtime, light. Dinner, skip. Betul, right? Yeah. 20, 30, when you reach 50, this is the formula already. When you reach my age now, 1 meal enough. Just like just now, Ibu Aminah want to invite me for lunch. I said, cannot. I took brunch already. So she said, I invite you for dinner. I said, dinner also cannot. Because, you know, before was V-shape, right? Now it's A-shape, right? Like pear like that, you know, like a pear. You know? So what if I don't take care of my health? Finish, right? So it's goodbye, this goodbye. Also, therefore, a company the same cannot do everything. So they look at the 10 years plan. They say, okay, this is called box 1, up to 3 years. Last time people call short term, but now we use projects. So these are the projects. It's called keep me going, like your university the same. Then you have S2, right, which is box 2. So up to 6 years, this is what you're going to run, your S2. But you know that you definitely need the S3, because now everywhere is the same. If you are a lecturer and you are operating at S2, definitely you must have S3. So I was told, I don't know how true it is, in Petra they mentioned, next time your secondary school must already be S2. I don't know, that's what they are talking about. When teach college, senior college use S2 already. Singapore was in this since 1980s, once you enter NUS, NTU, SMU, all are S3, the lecturers. Otherwise, no need to apply. Yeah, because they follow the British system. Okay. So therefore, S3 is your box 3 projects, which you have to plan for the future. So now you ask yourself as an organization, just like we ask ourselves before we get married, right? How long we save before we can buy the first house? I don't come from a rich family, you know. 10 years. 10 years, right? So now you stay in a rented house, then you move to a condominium, and then now you move to a proper house. Then you can have children, right? Yeah, so an organization is the same. You look at 10 years ahead. 10 years, I want to stay in this house, so how much will it cost me 10 years' time? So I will accumulate the resources part by part by part. In Singapore, just to give you another idea, we call this the CPF, Central Provision Fund. So every month, 15% minus from the salary. The employer also pay 15%, so you've got 30% of your basic salary parked with the government. 55 years old, you can take out 65%. Then the balance when you are 75. So this is the same thing is happening to an organization. It's called the management reserve. Singapore, during the COVID pandemic, took out $59 billion without borrowing money from our national reserve, Sing dollars, $59 billion. 33 to give to people to help them, and the balance is actually into what we call people who have to re-educate themselves, etc. Or to those people who fall sick, really they need subsidy from the government. So this is the same thing as an organization. This is what you learn in the theory of bankruptcy. If you don't have the management reserve, that's the end. Well, okay, so that's the execution gap. You must have resources, right, before you can do many things. So stakeholder value measurement means that, for example, what is my value to Pratita? What is my value to Pratita? I'm a visiting professor here, right? So I can only offer example things which the lecturer professor here are not doing. So I'm offering agile entrepreneurship as a subject here. Yesterday we do taping. I offer, same as what I did 20 years with the Petra Christian University, called Wholistic thinking. Wholistic thinking, not holistic, holistic, consisting of 4 types of thinking skills to solve complex problems. So this is my value add. Otherwise, they say, Casey, don't need to come. Just have tea and by echo will tell me bye-bye. Please go to the airport. Don't waste the time here. Okay, so every one of us in execution must have value. That is the reason why we form a team, because we have a common objective. So all these are real. So you have to fill the gap through communication, so that we are clear. Okay, next one. Growth gap. How many of us realize that Indonesia will be the 5th largest economy in the world by 2030? That's why I don't want to get out of Indonesia. I want to come into Indonesia. I was telling you, Amelia, I was here since 1982, you know. And who do I meet? Dr. Habibi. Because I want to sell machine to him. So he told me, not in Jakarta, go to Bandung, ITB, or ITPN at the time, because they make helicopter. So to cut the whole story short, but why do you think Indonesia will become the 5th largest economy? Anyone to try? Why do you think economy in Indonesia is so powerful that now you attract a lot of foreign investment to look at Indonesia? You have natural resources, right? So you know when you study economics, there are 4, right? You must have natural resources. What else do you have? Entrepreneurs. Look at this morning, I went to take breakfast at 10 a.m. The car park is full. So I asked my friend, in 10 o'clock in Singapore is nobody. We work. I said, these are entrepreneurs. They work for themselves. You know, own time, own target. You see, we work for corporations. If MNEs, multinational enterprise, don't invest money in Singapore, what happens? No jobs, no projects. But Indonesia different. Market is big. Foreign investment come here to collaborate with you, and you have a lot of natural resources. That's only one of it. But the energy is not the crude oil energy, your gasoline, but it's the entrepreneurs. Why America is #1 in the world in the past? Because they have very good entrepreneurs. But now you look at the richest man on earth, 1 to 1,000. The Indonesians are there already, one by one, because the Indonesians, they send their children overseas, come back, they start to connect with overseas collaborations. Look at your Gojek, right? He graduated from Harvard. He's even ahead of Singapore to introduce the, what you call, delivery services and transportation. The other one is, of course, Grab. They both graduated from Harvard, different class, but same time. Because the professor must give them a very good idea. They say, okay, go back, execute, right? So execution gap, they fail, they get the first one to be there. No? So this is, the growth gap must be, now Indonesia is no longer looking at regional business, but you have grown all the way to international business. And what technology have helped us? Global business, we are linked to our internet. People want to buy things, assemble this batik. This is very sellable to African countries. So they just go to Google, they contact the company, they say, I want to buy so many yards or so many rim of your cloth. So global outsourcing, global procurement becomes just one touch of the button. And you cut off the middleman. So Singapore in actual fact is in dire straits because Singapore is a trading country. If Indonesia go direct with even your peanuts, you know, you don't have to go by Singapore for export. Direct to whoever wants to buy, they cut the commission, then to the purchaser, the profit goes up again. And once you have the education, where your people are highly educated and you know the logic of things, then Indonesia will be a very direct competition to Singapore. Plus, you have 280 million people, right? Or more, plus the resources. So that's the reason why China is #1 in Asia, second will be Indonesia. Because I teach international business at Petra Christian, plus UI also. But I don't teach UI now. Because you must follow what is going on, to look at your growth gap. If you don't look at your growth gap, then #1, what happened? You will still be speaking Bahasa. Petra students all speak English. In my class, whoever speak Bahasa, penalized. Buy lunch. Or buy Starbucks coffee, then you go bankrupt. Okay, enough said. So growth is from your domestic market to regional, which is ASEAN, to international, which is part of certain part of the world, and then now global through the internet. So everyone can contact you through the website, right? Okay, next one. So this is actually what is happening now for those less developed countries. So less developed countries depends a lot of human, because management is, I manage 5 people. I'm not joking. In cinemas, I manage 80 people, 80 consultants. But I told my boss, the Vijay family, cannot. They said, Casey, the more people, better. I said, no, I only want to manage 3. Who are these 3 people? The vice president report to me of the division. Then I can spend quality time with them, remember the strategy gap, to plan out the strategy. From strategy, we convert into box 1, box 2, box 3 project, right? Very simple. So, because if your company is not truly go through proper management system, will be called ad hoc. So there are 5 stages, which is from the research. It's a very established research. Next one, this is what happened in General Electric. Jack Welch spent 20 years from ad hoc to optimize in order to bring GE to where GE is in 2001. Then he's moved over to the successor of Jack Welch. Now, when you plan, means you are able to have systems, established systems, you build more people who are leaders. That means one person who is a leader now use the process to develop and nurture 5 similar leaders. 5 times 2, 10 other leaders. So when the company can have more and more leaders, what happens? You can do more and more business, right? I send my people now to overseas to run the company for me. This is what happened to those big corporations. Corporations like, of course not Indonesian, big corporations like Nestle, Coca-Cola, or Microsoft. So sometimes you realize that some of the Indonesians from Indonesia, they actually are holding very senior position in other parts of the world because they work for a company called Microsoft. They are exposed to the international environment. So this is what you want, that as your company mature from 10 years old to 20 years old to 30 years old. So now, remember, what makes a company successful is not here and here, but the entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship means that you see opportunities where other people cannot see. Whereas entrepreneurs means that I only want to work for established company. So I only become a salaryman. I don't want to think otherwise. Huh? So that is the reason why until today, if you look at the richest man on earth, majority are the Americans because of this entrepreneurship. Every one of them will acquire the experience for the first 10 to 15 years. With the experience, with the connections, they will now have a very big market and they become their own bosses. And that is how they create more and more jobs. Singapore, we are in trouble because nobody wants to be an entrepreneur, including myself. When did I start to become an entrepreneur? When I'm 61. For a simple reason. There is no jobs for me in the corporate world. So I have to create my own company. I have to look for Pak Eko and say, my brother, I'm coming to Indonesia. Let's do consulting work. You know, let's do things together. But last time I'm happy. I work for Cinemas Group. I don't need to worry about money. But when I retired from cinemas, I said, I think 61 is thank you very much. You take care of yourself. You already get your gratuity also. That's it. So I have to start having my own. There are 4 things I do, no? Just to elaborate, optimize my time. If I just do educating, like I teach here, not yet. If I teach here, I teach in the NUS or NTU in Singapore and other private universities like Murdoch or Curtin, is only 1/3 of my time. Another 1/3, I'm a trainer. Trainer means what? I go to corporations, I teach project management, I teach agile project management, all related to project management or leadership, etc. So 1/3. Another 1/3 is what? So from educating to training, consulting. So I have 2 or 3 clients, so I do consulting work. But there's still 10%. 10% I do my writing of books with Pak Eko, articles, etc. And that is called optimize, because I optimize my time. Instead of I've got a lot of free time, then it's not the money, but it's your passion. To keep yourself there. If you don't keep yourself busy, what happens? You get dementia. Yeah, students don't get dementia because you are under pressure already. So you have no time. So you have to look time to relax. Okay, next. Now, learning gap is something. Can I drink a bit of water? Learning gap or learning gap? Learning gap. So, how many of us here? You can still hear me, right? Ask 3 questions. 3 questions only. Every time you finish a lecture, let's say today, it's only 1.5 hours. What must you know? Only one. No? So if I conduct a class, I will always ask my students, end of my class, this is the assessment, very simple one. Just from the computer, that's why it's digital, right? You can submit straight away to the computer the answer. Only one. What must you know about this topic that I've been talking for 1.5 hours? Next one is, what should you know? 2 items. So what must I know? What should I know? 2 items only. And the last one is need to know, 3 items. So you add up total 6. In every lecture, unless the guy is insane, unless the guy is a genius, he will have more than 6 items to discuss. In general, it's only 6. Maximum. Try the one out, and then you don't need to. I used to joke, right? Burn the books. I always tell Petroston, when you buy the books, after finish, burn. How can you remember so many things? You know, in Singapore, year 1, 12 subjects. Year 2, another 12 subjects. Year 3, another 12. Total 36 subjects. Year 4, you say, I give up already because I virtually cannot remember. Some more closed book exam. Those days was torturing, but now it's all open book exam. They follow the American standard. Is this the way to test students? No, because you don't want the students with the best photocopy machine. You want the students to be the best brain. And the best brain is that you learn in the class. So what must I know? One only should know, 2, and need to know 3. Try the one out even after this. You realize that you have learned something. So in the real world, this is actually people spend a lot of money on training, millions of dollars, I'm not joking. Some organizations 1 year spend $4 million on training. When they ask this question, they say, alamak, I've forgotten, But they have one cert, very nice cert on the wall. From Berkeley, from NUS and Berkeley, from Stanford and NUS. But no use, because you cannot apply. Okay, now let's look at the next slide. So, now, you are the pupil now. You must know many, many things, right? When you go out to industry to work, you ask all your lecturers, do you apply everything? If you apply everything, there's only one lecturer in the university, because he knows everything. And the guy is called Paeko. Then he died, because every subject is teached. Cannot, right? So therefore, as a pupil, you need to know many things. But when you become a practitioner, means that you apply only those relevant things that you learn into the real job, right, as a practitioner. But now when you're being tested as a professional, as example, when you do an accounting degree, correct? You are not a chartered accountant until you are certified, right? So this is called certification, professional. Just like myself as a chartered engineer, they don't test you everything. They give you one project, whatever you learn, within the 4 hours, you write down the answer. It's a case study. If you cannot, then bye-bye, finished. So to ask yourself, how can I remember so many things? Right? So therefore, this is to test what have you learned. What have you learned? So, now, a pundit means that you are the expert. They are the expert. So, for example, if I teach in the university, I get $250 per hour. So someone complained, why Casey get paid $250 per hour? I only get $150 per hour. It's because of his experience, not because the subject is the same, The PowerPoint size is the same, because it's set by the university. But my experience is different, right? So the student pay me for the experience. The student don't pay me more because I reproduce the knowledge from the same side, right? So this is called expert power, pundit. So this is where now the university is looking very carefully, how can I make sure my student go out, not only have a degree, but have certification, and also can show this is the consulting work we have done. And I'm not joking, when I go back to Petra next week, we will start the certification program called CAPM, which stands for Certified Associate for Project Management. It took me 20 years to convince them, but now they look at other top universities are doing it, they say, Casey, we know you are very good in this, come. We start the course. And then for the lecturers, they do the PMP, Project Management Professional. Lecturers, because eventually they have to teach the subject, not me. Well, okay, this is just one example. So there are 3 certifications that they are talking about. First is the Project Management Professional, the Strategy Implementation Professional, and the Certified Management Consultant. They start with the lecture first, then it cascades down. Okay, enough said. So therefore, you become a principal consultant. A principal consultant must have a minimum certification to show to organization why you should engage my division, Why it should engage my department? Because this is already certified by institution. This is worldwide recognition. Okay? So this is the learning gap. Last time learning, you don't need to be certified. Now you go to learn Microsoft, they will give you a certificate that you passed the test. Like Microsoft project. They will give you a certificate because you have to go through some test. Well, okay, next. Sorry, go back here. So organizations are now talk of company. Organizations start with learning organization. No use. Why? How many of us are so hardworking? After work, we say, I switch on the computer, I enter, example, Hewlett Packard. The organization has the learning aids, learning modules for the employees. I want to learn more about digital transformation or data mining. You think they will have take the trouble to spend their after office hour to study? If there's a salary increase, yes. If no salary increase, depends. Yeah, something. I tell you the joke. When we ask the Japanese, I work for Japanese for 10 years, ask the Japanese, when they come to this part of the world to speak English, cannot, don't know how to. We don't learn this in the university. But we say that after send you for English class, when you pass the English is TOEFL, is it? TOEFL, you get $1,000 increment, which means 10 juta per month. Very fast, all can speak English. Yeah. No problem to come to Indonesia. Otherwise, we have problem in Thailand, we have problem in Indonesia, we have problem in Vietnam, in the Philippines, because they speak English. Because the Japanese cannot speak Bahasa. So at least you can use English. So now everybody is English expert because of the motivation of incentive, right? The 10 juta. Yeah, okay. So from learning, action means that just like what I mentioned to you, must know, should know, need to know, then into teaching. How do I make students know or learn better than me? I ask them to teach. I'm not joking. This is my handouts I told Petra students, S2, when I come in next week, you teach me to the whole class. Now they must do research. They must practice. And now they appreciate how come when I talk, they also talk, no? Always like that. I talk, they talk. I don't talk, they also talk. Student, I was a student before. So now, when they suddenly realize so difficult to explain one slide because they do among the team. Next after one round, that means if there are 5 teams in the group, each team is 5, that means there are 25 students in the class. After that, all very quiet. When I continue the class, they say, better pay attention. No? And the one who always get high distinction is the one who sit in front. Because they heard every word I say. This is very important. The one behind cannot hear the word very important, right? Which means exam will come out, right? Yeah, okay. So, teaching and into coaching. Coaching is not new in USA or in Europe, but now in this part of the world it's new. You ask yourself again, if you ask by echo to go to study, you don't need to study. How many of you watched the movie IP Man, Ip Man? Why Ip Man always must go and fight? Because he wants to show off? No. Sparring partner. So by echo and me is sparring partner. Yeah. So he want to test me. I also certain new thing I test him. He just came back from Singapore. He was talking to me, but we test certain concept from our PowerPoint because writing a new book. Yeah. So it's called sparring. If you don't spar means what? It's only the theory, all the theory, but cannot put into practice, right? Yeah. If I show him, but let's go to the company and see how they operate. He said, oh yeah, I know what can go right or go wrong with this theory. But if it's just the theory, he knows everything already. He's very smart. But you see the way they say, oh, I didn't realize that can be so difficult, right? Especially in digital strategy implementation. Singapore is more advanced than Indonesia because we're a small country and many people are doing it. Oh, okay, now say, so coaching is sparring. Because you reach a certain level, the person is very knowledgeable. What he needs is someone who will not agree with him, someone will disagree and ask him very difficult questions. That is where the learning is up to the next level. Huh? Okay, now say, yeah, he's also the external examiner for some of my doctorate students, but I go all the way to China. You ask him 26, including from Tsinghua University, I think he forgotten already. So he need a translator. So we were both up there. Those were my students, but he's the external examiner. Huh? Okay, enough said. So sparring very important. Huh? Then you bring yourself to a higher level. Next. So ask yourself, what if your boat has holes? Holes are gaps. Can be when you have the boat, the gaps are not sealed, water start to come in, and more water come in, it become a lobang, a hole. And not only from one side of the boat, also from behind, also from the two sides. That is what happened to organizations. They think there's a strategy gap. They say take care of the strategy gap, but they've forgotten that from the strategy, there is also the execution gap. But can the company have all the people know everything done? Cannot. That is the reason why it took a long time to convince all these SMEs, small companies, until the COVID killed them, all of them. When the person is about to die, crisis, any medicine you give the person, he will take. It's either die or don't die. Good? So now you tell the guy, you want to survive, this is the checklist, this is what you must do, they will do. Definitely they'll do, because we are in next critical stage now for some of those companies in Singapore. Before they are prosperous, they are okay, they say, all these are theory, no use. But if those companies who actually implement this during the crisis, during the COVID, they survive, then this person will say, oh, I think I will do the same. So I hope this is opening up your mind that there's such a thing that's happening to many organizations, be it in the service industry or in the manufacturing. But if you don't take care of the four gaps from strategy gap, that means, example, how many of you also watched the movie Perfect Storm by George Clooney? He was told not to go for the fishing trip, and he said, my boat is very tough, can take all weather. If you have not seen the one Titanic, I think you have, right? Yeah, even such a big ship, the wave come, habis finish. Huh? So this is very, very important, huh? Because they didn't know that when you hit the iceberg, right, or something solid, then when you puncture a hole, the gap gets bigger and bigger, and that is where the water actually enter the ship and bring the ship to the bottom of the ocean. Huh? So this is a very simple analogy, very simple logic that I share with you today, and if you apply it faithfully to even your studies, your career, to if you have parents or having organizations, you realize that this is very, very practical, essential. Huh? So that you will not sink down. You will fill up the gap. Of course, the one that is easy to expand, to become bigger and bigger, you have to seal the gap. Oh, okay, next. So this is the SOIM bridge, which is actually started from Stanford. I attended my course in Stanford. They talk about this SIO model. But then when you go to Harvard, they say, yeah, there's something missing, which is Kaplan and Norton, which is balanced scorecard. Oh, so therefore I put the two together, become my paper. Very simple. Stanford said this, Harvard said this, I put together, become Casey Chan, right? Yeah, okay. So let's look at the model. Is there a model there or no more? Yes, so this is the beginning. So always remember, ask the first question to any organization, what is your strategy? I can answer for you for Pratita because I've been sparring with Professor Echo. What differentiates Pratita from other universities is called action learning. And this action learning is project-based. So the strategy gap. So that means students are doing not just case study, but real case, small real case studies that is happening in the industry. However, you need to set up a team to specifically supervise the student. So in the industry, it's the same. You have one team of people, which is called from the Office of Strategy, Innovation Management. That's why I was invited as a visiting professor here. If we can look at some of this project that is going on, so that we can keep improving. It cannot be wait until 1 year and improve. Every quarter must look at what went right and what went wrong. Well, because things change very fast. Now, execution gap 2, this is because people are not trained. So you need to set strategic objectives aligned to business objectives, aligned to operation objectives, and come up with a coherent strategy. Which aspect here? Are we talking about operational excellence? If the answer is yes, then don't talk about product excellence. Otherwise, it's two different animals. I repeat again. Over here, you realize that you're talking about product excellence. That means you produce the best product or the best electric cars. Then you ask yourself, but why did you say that the strategy is operational excellence, which is best cost? So it doesn't sink in. So you have to adjust. If you study blue ocean strategy, so maybe the answer is, that's what happened to Tesla. We have the luxurious car, we also have the economy car, but we have not yet produced. So we must focus and produce the cheaper car, which is called value for money, for a bigger user of electric cars who like Tesla. Okay, so now change the strategy. Change the strategy, value for money. So now you execute, which also means that you have to collaborate with people who can actually produce cheaper for you. But you cannot talk about the best quality anymore. The best quality means you have to pay for the premium of the Tesla. So Toyota is the same. You want the best Toyota car is called Lexus. Otherwise, it's still Toyota. Oh? So now, center of excellence in execution capability. Many people forgotten that how many of us realize the older we are, can we run faster, better than the younger generation? Cannot. So if you want to continue to run faster and better, either use technology or you have a fresh group of talented people to come in each time to sustain the momentum. This is something has been missing when companies collapse. And this was what happened in cinemas in 1998 when I was recruited to look at the whole situation, what went wrong. It's a very good company, but they don't have enough capable people to be stationed in overseas. All are stationed in Jakarta, but to station them overseas, you need to change the mindset. You need to groom them. You need to develop them. I mean, I'm talking about Indonesian station overseas. So this is the one that you need to make sure you rotate people and you keep on making sure that they have the execution capability. Right? So if I ask you a very simple question, How to differentiate a good leader from a not so good leader? Who wants to try? How do you differentiate Donald Trump from Elon Musk? Donald Trump is both a politician and a businessman. Elon Musk is only a businessman, but he wants to become a politician also. If this is a very standard question that you ask in the industry, let's say I'm the employer. If you can answer this question, you get the job. If you cannot answer this question, another one will come in to answer. So how should you tackle this question from what I just explained? Who will outshine in a crisis? The good leader or the not so good leader? Yeah. Okay, good answer. So now put it more exact. Do you think that to run a company with only Indonesian is easier, or to run a company that consists of multinational people in, for example, Russia? And this guy survived. And those people in Russia are not just from Russia, from different countries. So from that, you know that your communication. So a good leader is able to influence and overcome the cultural differences or cultural diversity because of communication, and also because people want to be led by him. So a good leader is measured by very complex projects they have done, not whether you graduate from Harvard or Stanford or Wharton. So this is the one measurement is also on the attitude of a person. The person will not discriminate. No? So this is something that has to be re-looked at when people are teaching leadership. It's not, especially digital transformation leadership. So it's different from, because they're doing with many different types of people. People at the operations level, people at the middle level, people at the top level, even with politicians, you have to deal with them because they want to support you, or they say this is against the regulation. No? So therefore, very important that this group of people, you have to have a big pool, and that is your center of excellence. And now you can grow the company because you have good people to grow the company. Most companies cannot grow because they make assumption this guy is good, but not tested. I give one last example. When Bill Gates fired Steve Ballmer for one reason, he asked him, Bill Gates, not Steve Jobs, Microsoft, why our best people resign and move to Oracle at a lower salary, worse condition than Microsoft? He said that the people don't know how to think. The people don't believe in Microsoft. He said no. Bill Gates interviewed these people. He said, because you are not a good leader, so you are fired. You see the point? You are fired, finished. So therefore, you know, later on, this Satya took over, right? He's from India, but you can see that the top 10 most admired CEOs in the world, the number one for the last 10 years is Tim Cook. Tim Cook. So it's very clear. He can manage different aspects of the business. He can do businesses because Apple is very big in different countries, etc. And Satya is also inside of Microsoft. So this is another benchmark you can use. Which are the good leaders and why are they good? Oh, okay, now said, and that is the growth gap. So now you can see After Apple, Microsoft is the next trillion-dollar company. So now we have $2 trillion company in the world that is manufacturing. The rest are all banks. 1 to 9 are all banks. So now 10 and 11, neck to neck is Apple and Microsoft. Huh? Okay. So this is the learning gap which all students may be neglected. I'm sorry to say, but I'm one of them as well. So when I was very sick in 2016, what time are we? Yeah, we still got 1 minute, right? So the doctor said 6 months cannot work because I collapsed on the plane. Overwork. Because if I work, the insurance will not pay me. The doctor signed. He's not fit to work for 6 months. So I asked myself, what have I been doing for the last 20 years, apart from in the corporate world? So then Pa Echo called me. Pa Echo, that's the birth of this book. Can I borrow? Because God is not sleeping, no, God is always awake, because good man, they want to help. But Echo called me, Casey, have you written anything called technopreneurship? I said, let me check my computer. I said, 75% done, 25% not yet done. Good, let's finish it. Yes, because I write little bit by little bit, not over 1 year, over 10 years, no. So that is the point I'm trying to make. So I accumulate all my learning into bits and pieces, but now because I've all the free time in the world, I can sit down and within 3 months we finish the book. Yeah, the first book I wrote with Professor Echo was in 2004 called Project Integration Management. Also that time Indonesia was in crisis. Indonesia was in crisis, so I got a lot of free time. Because cinema was also in crisis. But Pebanas was not in crisis. Okay, enough said. So let's finish this. Next. So therefore, this is the one I hope you can take away, that in future, you talk about AI, artificial intelligence. So business and strategy canvas, you no longer need to use and do a SWOT analysis and do a PESTA analysis, do a Porter's 5 forces, but all these are questionnaires, question checklist, you key, then they analyze for you. Then this will be integrated to the next software, which is the Project Canvas. Also is available now, but not yet connected. So this is the research I'm doing with Professor Echo, how to connect all the canvases together. So from business strategy canvas to project canvas into the third one, which is the capability maturity canvas, and then now to the project-based accelerated action learning canvas. So Pratita will be one of the first in the world to have this software. And now you tell your employer, you have to give me the job because only I have. How about that? Very good. Okay, that's all I think. Next. Yeah, next. This one you can just take a look, because this is, we will not actually learn anything until we change our behavior. So this is what we say, is that we will not change anything because this is what you learn today. If you don't change your behavior, then learning has not taken place. So you attend another seminar, another class, again, if you don't change your behavior, then learning has not taken place, because learning is transformation from an old behavior to a new behavior, and must be positive. Okay, as a conclusion, so all these gaps, next slide please. Strategy, we need to have discipline, because you must own the strategy and must implement the strategy. So implement, if you don't know how, as I just mentioned, maybe the canvas can help you. So you have the ability in execution. Operation, because of the Internet of Things, we are all connected up to 5G, so it's called speed in execution. However, you have to continue to learn. That's why we say lifelong learning, so that you have the excellence in execution, because why? You have the expert power. So now you can command not only a good salary, but after salary is what? A happy family. Yeah, very important. A happy family, because money is not everything. A happy family is everything. Okay, I think that's it. So, thank you. Where's the next slide? This one I just mentioned, so you just take note on next slide. So as a conclusion, these are the certification that I just mentioned earlier on, the strategy implementation professional, the project management professional. This is the next one is the certified management consultant, and of course this is the center of excellence, which by ECHO myself is considering for the different types of cameras, right? Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, you can actually try to row your boat as fast as possible, but if you don't fill up the gap, it's going to become heavier and heavier and you'll sink down. So speed, momentum is speed times velocity. But you need to have, remember, the strategy gap means the direction, which is a compass. The execution gap means that the people who are rowing the boat and who are going to steer up the boat, if it's having pockets or holes. Then the next one, of course, the growth gap. That means you do not only have a small boat, but you can make a bigger and bigger and bigger boat, because the whole world is an oyster and it's all connected. So why should you do business only in Indonesia? So how many of you realize that your Indomie is so famous that you go to Africa, Indomie is 90% of the market share. So you have no shortage of Indomie. My son just returned from Romania. So he told me, Daddy, in Romania the same. You have a lot of Indomie. So now Indomie rules the world. And Indonesia, for that reason, is the world's largest palm oil producer in the world. Two companies, Wilmar as well as PT Spark, or also known as Golden Agro Resources. So you can see in the past it was Malaysia, but now it's already Indonesia, because you have done the right things to invest in people, process, and the planet. Okay, thank you.